Dear students, let us try to complete our module 3, which is related with the alignment design. In the previous interaction, we have looked at various types of photographs or the drawings on which we have tried to find out the issues which are there and what could have been the possible things by which those could have been resolved so as to provide a safe environment and an efficient road network or an alignment. We also looked at the requirements related to the traffic signs or the markings on the road pavement, and then again in those cases we have tried to find it out that what could have been the better ways of providing the things in those environments. In this particular interaction, we are going to continue with those things. We will try to see some of the good practices which have been followed and have given a very good design or a very good alignment, which is self explaining and probably which is also forgiving in nature. So, let us start with this. So, let us look at a few of these photographs which have been shown here as a part of a good practices. We can start with photograph 1, where you can see there is a carriageway being provided, there is a paved shoulder, and then on the side of this paved shoulder there is also a mild slope which is there, and this mild slope, if any vehicle goes out of control, if these vehicles are moving in this direction, then it helps them to stop and there should not be any big injury in this particular case. At the same time, we see that there is a median on that side and that separates out the traffic which is moving in the opposite directions. Now, in this another photograph number 2, what we found is that there is an edge marking here, there is a center line marking, then there is a paved shoulder, and then again a mild slope is being provided on that side, and that means it is trying to give you a safer design which is forgiving in nature. At the same time, it tries to delineate the width which should be used by the motorist while they are driving here. This is another case where there is no unpaved shoulder. So, we have a wide paved shoulder, there is an edge marking here, and at the same time there is a crash barrier being provided. So, it is a complete protected system. So, nothing can come from this wood side to this particular road, and that is how in one of the photograph with the previous interaction we have seen as a good or a bad practice, where a wide depressed median was provided, but the cattle were there. So, that is not a possibility in this case because it has been protected by way of these barriers here. Now, another thing is that sometimes we have to provide a cross drainage work. So, when this cross drainage structure is there, then this can be in different forms. It can be in the form of a pipe, it can be in the form of a, say a box, anything. Now, let us look at here where the pipe is being provided. So, instead of providing a pipe in this form where this has a cross section in this way, it has been beveled and it has been made along the slope of this particular road. So, if anything falls, if it had fallen on this one, could have been more dangerous or hazardous, but when this is going in this along the profile, then this is a better way of providing these type of structures. Here again what you found is that the vehicles which are moving here, they have been provided with a small shoulder which is not paved, but if any vehicle goes here, because of this slopes being provided, this vehicle is going to come back on the highway. So, it is again a recoverable type of a slope being provided, and that is also a part of a forgiving condition. Here the rock cut is there, but then there are possibilities that there may be some fall on this. So, a gap has been used, and along with that gap there is a crash barrier being utilized, and their proper markings are there on the road, and that is how it has been made more safer, and the vehicles can move at the desired speed on this particular road. So, we look at another case where the traffic is moving on this particular side as well as this side. So, this is a segregation. So, opposing traffic has been segregated by way of a wide depressed median. and based on that what is the width of this particular depressed median, the decision regarding to provide a crash barrier all along this side or all along this side has to be taken, and we discussed about that what is the distance at which it is provided. The edge marking is there, and then there is a paved area. So, it should be at least 0.6 meters or 0.75 meters depending on what category of road is this one. So, this is a good type of a design. On the other side what we found is that the shoulders are also being provided as a paved and unpaved shoulders. In that another case which is here, what you find is that there is an installation of the camera CCTV along with the radar which can take the speeds. But when we are doing this, then the customary thing along with this is that we should warn the driver. So, if we are not warning the driver that you are going to be watched, your speeds is going to be recorded, and if you are violating it, then there is going to be a penalty, then there is always a scope of arguments. So, this type of a sign needs to be provided, traffic sign needs to be provided, and we did discuss about this type of a sign where the panel provisions etcetera can be there, and we did talk about that the in such cases the red color background can be utilized with the white fonts on the top of it. Here again there is a design where what you can find is that the cycle track is being provided. So, there is a texture being used, and this texture distincts it with the rest of the material or the rest of the paths being provided for different other users. There is a crossing situation at this location. So, the median which is there at this case or at this case, a gap has been created and the pedestrians can cross from one side to the another side. So, that is another facility being provided. Then if they are going to the footpath, then the footpath design is clearly there. So, there is a slope here, and then there is the flat surface on that side, and along with that there is a tactile tiles being provided. So, that this defines. So, the same tactile tiles are also being provided here. So, that anybody who is having this type of disability can find it out the way and can cross at this particular location. So, this is another way of a universal accessible design being provided. Here what you can see is that there is a traffic which can move on this path or on this path, and sort of a small pedestrian refuge is being provided on which people are standing. So, if the traffic is coming, they can wait here, or otherwise they can cross to other side or this side. And so as to protect them, there is a use of these sidelines, and these sidelines defines that the vehicle cannot come in this area. So, they have to move either in this or the other area. So, that is the way the safety of these pedestrians who are waiting here has been ensured. Let us look at this photograph which is from Finland, Helsinki. So, is being taken from the top of a hotel. So, here this is an intersection, but because they have the driving directions are different than us. So, what you found is that the traffic is coming from this direction on this road. There is a crossing being provided which is a marked crossing. So, the pedestrians can cross at this particular dedicated location, and there is a pedestrian refuge being provided in the center at that location. These vehicles can come and they can move in this direction, but here the arrows has been used which defines that if they have to take a left turn, then the left turn can be taken by use of these two lanes, but if they want to go straight, then they can be in these particular lanes. And here also what we can find is that the vehicles are there. So, these vehicles are going in this direction. There is a tram also. So, for tram this wide area is been provided. So, the persons or the passengers can get in and out at these locations, and there is a gap which is provided in the median at this location. So, this gap is there for the vehicles which are going to move in different directions here. So, everything is being done in a nice manner, and all these demarcations are being done. So, here also we have an island being used. so on which the pedestrians are waiting for moving in either of the directions. This is another case where a dedicated road is also there, a dedicated space is there for the tram, and then the space is also there. Now, out of these particular lanes, they can be utilized maybe by mixed vehicles, or it can be a dedicated bus lane being provided. So, any type of those flexibilities can be there. You have again a textured surface here, which is going to be utilized by the people who are on bicycle, and then there is a crossing which is being provided, and the designs have been looked at. Clearly there are signs being placed so as to warn that you have something here. Okay. So, similarly here what you can see is that there is a pedestrian crossing which is marked. So, you have a wide pedestrian crossing, okay, in this case, and then this is also being provided with this line, that means there is a gap here. So, the bicyclist can use it. This is a footpath, but this footpath is raised, but when it comes here then the slope is being provided so that it comes at the same level as with the carriageway. Okay. So, here like there is a gap in the median. So, there is one median here and there is a median on the other side. On this median a sign is being provided, which is a mandatory sign, defines in which direction the vehicles have to move. So, if you look at another view of such type of things, what you found is that there is a pedestrian crosswalk, there is a mandatory sign which defines the traffic has to move in this direction. All these vehicles, they are stopping ahead of the pedestrian crossing. There are arrows which defines that if you have to go straight or you have to go some direction, then in which particular lane you should be. The pedestrian crossing markings are there, and this locations there are signals also being placed. So, signals and the markings, they have been placed at the same pole, and there is a gap in the median because the pedestrians are going to move at the same level as of the carriageway. So, this is another sort of a design which is quite good, conducive for the users. Here what you can see is that there is a road here, and this road is going down and then coming up. There is a footpath being provided on this side. So, what is being done is that this footpath is at a higher level. So, you can see that there is a height here. So, they have not been brought to the level at this point, because these pedestrians, they are going to utilize their own energy, and therefore, that needs to be sustained, and this is the reason the footpath has been kept as up as possible. There is a crossing path also at the top. So, the required clearances has to be maintained. Okay. Now, here one thing which is there is that there would have been a possibility of going, because this is the level. So, the level could have been like this of this alignment, but the point here is that the alignment has been depressed. The reason is that the privacy of the houses which are situated just near to this particular alignment has been maintained by way of reducing it, and along with that there is another issue which is noise. So, if continuous traffic is moving on this road, then a lot of noise is there, and we are trying to protect these houses from it. So, this is another type of a good design where the adjustments has been made in the alignment, but the things have been made relatively simpler for the pedestrians who are also moving in this area. Here what you can see is that there is a gantry girder. This gantry girder has been provided here. It has been provided at a certain distance away from the edge of the carriageway in the open side, and the information has been displayed at the top of it using different colors. There is a signal, and this signal, because this is a multi-lane case, then it is being placed on an overhang, so that from a distance it can be looked at and the drivers can react to it. There is a lane which is dedicated for bus, so that bus marking is also there. So, only buses are going to be allowed to move on this particular road. Okay. And the traffic is moving on the other side. So, clearly the all type of markings are being provided along with the edge marking and the crash barriers in this particular stretch. This is another case where the traffic is coming in this direction and this is getting bifurcated. So, what you can see is that there is a use of the edge lines, and these edge lines have been continued, and within those then the chevrons have been provided. A minimum number of chevrons needs to be provided as 2. So, those chevrons have been provided at a certain distances. This edge marking is continuously going there. There is a mandatory sign which defines what are the 2 directions in which the vehicles can move. So, you have to take either a mandatory left or continue straight. At the same time, there is a crash barrier, and the crash barrier has been designed rightly at its culmination where it ends, and it goes into the ground like this. So, that if any vehicle which is coming say from this side, and if it hits here, there is a possibility that it is not going to create a big problem to the passengers or the drivers in this vehicle, but if this has been a straight profile, then that would be more dangerous. On the other side, what you can see is again an edge line is there. At the back setback of an edge line, there is a crash barrier, and then there is a median, and on this median the plants have been planted, and therefore the headlight glare has been reduced. So, there is no issue of headlight glare when the traffic is moving in either of these directions. So, that is another good practice being followed in this case. Here this is an intersection where what you found is that this is again an island, but then this is a crossing for the pedestrians. So, there is a level difference which is there at this point. That means this level is going to be same as for the carriageway. Pedestrians zebra markings are there. There are lane markings, but when it comes to the intersection, then they are not being continued the same way as it has been done on the mid block sections. There are again different type of signs which are being placed at different distances, so as to define or direct the driver what to do. Okay, so all of those things have been perfectly done again in this, along with the edge markings etc., whatever are there. If we look at this photograph, then what you found is that there is a development on the roadside, and this development, if you see that there is a road here, there is a road here, there is a road here, but then those accesses has not been provided directly on this main road. What is being done is that the traffic which is moving in this direction. So, here there is a pedestrian crossing, because there is habitation on both the sides. So, that there is a possibility that the pedestrians may cross from one side to the another side. So, the pedestrian crossing is being provided. The connectivity of this crossing is by way of this textured area. So, it defines that this is a separate thing, and at the same time there is a carriageway, not a much wider carriageway, a carriageway which can take the type of traffic which goes into these habitation areas or development areas is being provided. So, there is a possibility for the traffic to go straight, and there is a possibility for the traffic, if they have certain work in this area, then they can get into the area, and that is where at one particular location only the access has been provided to this habitation. So, we have controlled the multiple paths, and we have controlled the multiple locations where the conflicts could have arisen. So, that is a way we have taken care of. Now, another thing is what you see is that a green patch is being provided here, and therefore, there is this type of a bulb system is provided, that this bulb system actually helps in reducing the speed of the vehicles. So, it is a traffic calming measure, so as to reduce the speeds, as well as it reduces this width which is to be crossed by the pedestrians. So, now the exposure is going to be lesser. At the same time, it has provided an opportunity to have a parking lane, and this parking lane, there is some a plantation here and plantation here, but at this level there is a this lane is being left as such, and this is a location where the entry and exit is there. If somebody is not required to take the vehicles inside, they can park their vehicle here, just walk inside, come back and take the vehicle and move ahead. So, that is how it is being done. The another thing which is being done is being provided is this skywalk. So, the people on this side can utilize this skywalk and get to the other side. So, they need not to come in contact with the vehicles which are moving on the road. So, this is how the segregation has been done on the different type of road users and their safety has been ensured. In this case, what we can say is that there is a wide flush median, but it has been provided with the yellow color strips. So, we have the yellow color edges as well as the diagonals which are also yellow in color, that defines the restriction that the vehicle cannot come in this area. So, they have to move either in this direction or in this direction away from it. This is one thing being defined. Then this slope is there. So, it is a recoverable slope. So, because of this recoverable slope, the vehicles can come back in this form. There is another path being coming on the other side which is being protected by way of the railings being provided. There is an edge marking and then you have the shoulders on the sides. One another thing which is being done is that this wide median which is being used has been shortened here, and this has given an opportunity to come up with a one another lane, and this lane can be utilized for the traffic which is desiring to take a left turn. So, that left turning lane has been created by this particular measure. So, that means this width of flush median or whatever type of median which has been provided, this should be sufficient enough so that it can come up with this type of a lane which is 3.5 meters wide. At the same time, the median which has a minimum width of say 1.5 meters. So, that means this is minimum 5 meter, if it is then has been helpful. Here also you can see that this is a median, that then this median is not being continuously, and now it has been changed into the pavement markings, and those pavement markings are again in yellow color with the diagonals and the side edge markings. So, that defines that the vehicles are not supposed to either come to this side or to this side. So, those type of two movements are not being allowed, because this becomes a parallel yellow continuous line which we have discussed in the case of pavement markings. And when the vehicles are coming from the direction, then it defines that you have to be on the left hand side on this particular case, or a right hand side depending on the direction of movements which we are considering. So, that is another type of a design. Here also you can see that the edge marking is there along with the paved and the unpaved shoulders being provided. Here is this case where a good amount of the channelization has been done at the ground level, and this channelization is helping in the segregated movements of the traffic on this particular area. At the same time, there is a skywalk being provided for the pedestrians, and this has multiple entry and exits as being shown here, and at the ground level also they have been protected, so that they are not getting into a direct contact with the motorized vehicles. So, the things have been made in a manner that all type of movements by different type of road users remains protected. This is another case where as you can see, the good markings for the crossing of the pedestrians are there. There is a line marking, and in between those there is a gap which is going to be utilized by the people on bicycles. They are waiting here because there may be red color for them, so they cannot cross. At the same time, the traffic is coming from this side, but even if the traffic is not there, the people are waiting there, and there are dedicated spaces being provided, and the spaces separately being provided for the parking of the vehicles, because this is an activity area. So, in this activity area, lot many pedestrians and the vehicles are going to be there. So, those measures have been taken care of. Now, this is another case where many of the times when you have a road being going at a certain level and the terrain is such that the crossing of this particular road becomes difficult, or otherwise we have to segregate the movements of the pedestrians with respect to motorized vehicles, then what we need to do is we need to provide say the subway. So, we are going to talk about the subway when we will take up the last module, which is the design of facilities. But one thing which is being depicted very clearly here is that there are steps by way of which you are going down, there is a size of a subway in terms of a width and the vertical clearance. There are railings being provided, so that anybody requiring that help can utilize it and they can reach to this location. And the traffic has been the vehicles have been protected by way of the provision of the railings here. Otherwise, there may be a possibility that any of the vehicle may just fall down and create a big problem or a hazardous situation for those pedestrians who are just crossing at the lower level. So, this is the thing which needs to be taken care of, and of course, when we will take up the subway, we are going to talk about few more things, but one thing which we have already discussed is the railings and how the railings are provided or guardrails are provided. So, that is one thing which is already covered. Now, one another thing which may be there is that when you provide these type of subways, then we should try to make them lively. They should not be total simple concrete structures. So, this is the same location which we have just talked here, and this inside it has been provided with the these type of drawings by the people around or by the kids around, and that shows that different type of things that the person is just rushing for the bus, somebody is on the top of the bus and all. So, whatever they want to say, but it makes it lively, so that when you cross it, you do not feel scared that you are crossing somewhere below the ground level. So, this is another type of a good practice which needs to be followed. So, with this we come to an end of our this module, and from the next module we are going to shift to intersection layouts and we will start discussing that. Till then, thank you and bye.